Some people blame guns. Others, like my next guest, say guns are not necessarily the problem here. People are the problem. The media is the problem. Society is the problem. Independence Institute Research Director David Kopel joins me from Denver, Colorado. David, welcome to you. We've heard all kinds of arguments last couple of days from the pro-gun side. Just briefly, your op-ed, what was your unique message?
Well, first of all, something that, however much people want to argue about the gun issue, we ought to come together and finally address mental health, which even while the government at all levels in this country has bloated over the last 50 years, the laws and the funding for mental health treatment for people who are dangerously, violently mentally ill has been decimated. And 50 years ago, somebody like the guy who perpetrated the Aurora Theater murders would have been civilly committed and treated before he could kill so many people. So, and a very large number of the people who commit these sensational things with the purpose of getting media attention for themselves are seriously and identifiably mentally ill beforehand. So that is something that it's long past time we got serious about.
Let me jump in on that because, there are a lot of numbers in your piece, and you basically look at, what can account for the increase in these types of shootings. You talk about the deinstitutionalization of the mentally ill. My question would be then, and you referenced the 60s, but how would locking people up today, how would that help? Just tossing people in these institutions, and then who pays for that?
Well, the taxpayers pay for it. We pay for the police. We pay for prisons. We pay for the medical examiner in Connecticut who had to do all those autopsies on those children. And instead of paying for that, we could spend less on things like that if we'd spend more up front on providing treatment and for the people who are dangerously, violently, identifiably mentally ill.
I just want to read this blog because, and I'm sure you've seen it, this is a stunning piece. It was written in the Blue Review talking about just mental illness by this distraught mother, and her name is Liza Long. She talks about her 13-year-old son who, has pulled a knife on her, has threatened to kill himself, and so she says, antipsychotic drugs haven't worked on her son. There is no official diagnosis of mental illness, but she thinks he could be somewhere on the spectrum. And the social worker says that the only real option for her son would be if he's charged with a crime and just has to, goes to prison. Let me read you what this mother writes here. Quote, "No one wants to send a 13-year-old genius who loves Harry Potter and his snuggle animal collection to jail. But our society, with its stigma on mental illness and its broken healthcare system, does not provide us with other options." We're talking about this 13-year-old here. What would you, David, what would you tell this mother to do with her son?
I'd say that what she wrote about, and good for her for having the courage to go out and do that, is similar to what a lot of people have written to me privately in emails, is they have a relative or someone else close in their lives who is violent and dangerous.
So what do you do with that relative?
And they go to the authorities now and they say there's nothing we will do until this person commits a crime, and then after he commits the crime, then we'll prosecute him and put him in prison.
That's not good enough.
We need to have, of course that's not good enough. What we need to do, studies have shown that if you look at the state-to-state variation in homicide rates, about a third of the variation among the states is between the states that have the stronger laws for civil commitment for the violently mentally ill versus the states that have the weakest laws. So we could, all across the country, strengthen those laws following the stronger models of, say, states like Wisconsin, and in addition, pay what we need to in taxes to provide the resources for the treatment and care. It's crazy that we don't do that, pay for it now, and we end up paying much more in so many ways later.
Okay, so there has to be a solution. You say that the taxpayer would be forking over the money. I have to ask you about something else you said in your piece, and I know other people have said that. When you talk about the uptick in shootings like this, you blame the media. You write that cable TV greatly magnifies the instant celebrity that a mass killer can achieve. I was in Newtown for a couple of days. I cover the story. Multiple people are there. What then is another option? Not to ignore it, not cover it at all?
Well, I think TV does that in some cases, like if a guy at a football game runs on the field naked, the cameras have a policy of not covering him because they're doing it for publicity. And certainly on something like this, it's not a story you can avoid but you can...
It's not. It's not.
Television, of course not. But if you look at how the cable TV, including CNN, among others, covered Columbine, they made these heinous, evil people into national celebrities. And how much time do you spend showing the picture of the guy who did it? How much time?
It's
how
journalism.
often do you mention
It's
his
journalism.
name?
We tell the stories, and we focus now. We talk a lot about all these victims. I've spent several days talking about these horrible, sad young victims there in Newtown. But you know, the whole part of the story.
I used to be the media critic for the Rocky Mountain News, so I know that journalists, when they want to cover things in a responsible way, can. So, for example, there's someone who's a victim of a sexual assault. Generally, you don't mention that person's name, even though that's part of the news and it might be of great interest to the viewers. Certainly, media can voluntarily tone down how much attention they give to how much often the picture of the murderer is shown on television.
Absolutely.
How often his name is mentioned. You can cover the story, and you can spend more attention to the good people, like the heroic teachers who tried to save their kids, to the victims, and try to minimize how much fame that the killers get, because we absolutely know from the studies of them that this fame that they get by doing these awful crimes is one of their primary motivations.
David Kopel, I appreciate your opinion and your perspective. You know, people come to us for facts, for the stories, and we hope that we present them in a fair manner here at CNN. I appreciate you very much for coming on, though, and talking to me about it.